Oh, hey, gals, guys, gays, and theys. Welcome to your weekly Thera-Tea Pride edition for Pride Month. My name is Tel Williams, or Mr. Williams, pre-K if you know me from social media. I'm a teacher, a social worker, and a therapist. And over here we have the lovely...
I'm Anne-Marie DiPietro, and I'm still a nurse practitioner.
Still a nurse practitioner.
Pride Month nurse practitioner.
And we're both gays.
Yes.
So it's
so gays.
It's a mental health, teaching, and gay podcast.
Yes. All the gays.
All the gays.
All the mental health.
Okay, so I'm really excited about this episode. And there's going to be a lot of kikiing and fun stuff, but I so badly wanted to start out with this because it's something that I read about yesterday. Uh-huh. And I'm shooketh because Anne-Marie does not know about it.
Oh my God.
And her soon-to-be wife was in the army.
Oh my God.
Okay, so I don't know if you've seen this rhetoric, which like instantly annoys me, but anytime that there's like Pride Month comes up, right? I always see a bunch of, I don't even want to say conservative because I know a lot of conservative people who would never say this shit, but it's always like this idea of like, why do they get a whole month? Well, what do veterans get? And there's like a veterans military month too, but it's always that rhetoric, right? As if...
Well, veterans get a lot of things.
Which they should. There's like also queer people...
Discounts at the outlets.
Yeah. There's also queer people in the military, though.
Well,
so to sit there and be like, you know, why did they get it? It's like, you do know that there's people that are you know, fighting for a country that also celebrate Pride Month. Like, this is for them as well.
Right.
But that rhetoric sticks with me. So...
Okay.
This is an article. I want to credit the person because it's a really good one. It's you can go read it at cbsnews.com. It was written by Lee Cohen. Okay, today's June 14th when we're recording this, so go back, listen. You know, you're gonna love it.
Oh my God, I'm dying with anticipation.
So, an Army veteran, firefighter, and New York radio station founder says he'll forever rest in peace after revealing a lifelong secret. In a message included in Colonel Edward Thomas Ryan's obituary, he said, "I was gay all my life." Along with receiving the National Defense Service Medal, the obituary says that he received a Defense of Liberty Medal for his assistance in the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks. And a commander's citation for service above and beyond the call. At the bottom of his service and funeral details, Ryan provided his own message saying, "I must tell you one more thing. I was gay all my life, through grade school, through high school, through college, through life." He also revealed that he had been in a lifelong, loving, and caring relationship with another man named Paul Cabanaro. That relationship ended in a heartbreaking situation after the death of Ryan. Said he will be finally reunited. "He was the love of my life. We had 25 years together," Ryan wrote. "Paul died in 1994 from a medical procedure gone wrong. I'll be buried next to Paul." After years of keeping his sexuality hidden, Ryan apologized. "I'm sorry for not having the courage to come out as gay. I was afraid of being ostracized by family, friends, and coworkers," he wrote. "Seeing how people like me were created, I just could not do it. Now that my secret is known, I'll finally forever be able to rest. As a brother in arms, I salute. As a brother in spirit, I embrace you. As a brother of the Holy Spirit, I kneel and pray for your eternal solace," one person commented. "To have found true love is priceless. May he rest in peace and pride with Paul. And may his memory be comfort to his family and a lesson to us all," one person commented. So this military vet who, I think he was in Vietnam, got a literal medal for 9/11 for like his assistance afterwards. His entire life felt like he couldn't come out, and came out in his obituary.
That is wild.
I know. And I was just like, it's stories like that I'm just like, it's so sad that so many of us, right? We can't even be like, us excluded from the situation, that there's so many times that it's like we don't even feel comfortable coming out, right?
Well, when Colleen joined the military, Don't Ask, Don't Tell was still a thing.
Yeah. And that was progressive. Mm-hmm. I don't think people realize that, like, they don't, I mean, because for us now, we're like, Don't Ask, Don't Tell that's a really fucked up thing. Mm-hmm. It was so progressive at the time.
Mm-hmm. Like, what was that, Bill Clinton?
Yeah.
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 Bill.
But like it was their way of saying, like, now you don't have to tell the military. If they don't ask, then you don't have to tell them, so then you won't get kicked out and you can be in the military. Right. Like, that's not
just like hide it.
Yeah. And it's like, but that was seen as like being so progressive for queer people to be able to join the military. It's like, hey, you like really can't still join, but like we won't ask about it now.
Right.
Like that's the best we could do. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think we're at a position to tell anyone now that
Seriously.
But yeah, I came across that and I was like, I think it's a reminder too, because that, like I said, that rhetoric of why do gay people get a whole month for Pride, I think it's important that like we know and that we're aware that queer people are in every single space, mm-hmm. right? And we're allowed to be in those spaces. And I think that like it's important to remember that like we're represented across that mm-hmm. field, and that this amazing like American hero who was in a relationship with another man, the love of his life, who passed away in the 90s. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine losing someone and not being able to tell anyone and not be able to confide in your family?
It's horrific.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God. So I thought that was bittersweet, right? He was finally mm-hmm. able to come out and be his true self, but it was only in after
But
passing.
imagine what would have been taken away from him, like if he did come out, like all of those accomplishments would have been
oh my God.
different, I'm sure.
Yeah, like for sure. I think if he would have maybe come out in the last 5 years, it might have been different, but had he come out in the 90s?
Oh yeah,
I mean, 94 was when his partner passed away. That was around the time that Don't Ask, Don't Tell was put into place.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, so I mean,
for most of his career, he wasn't even allowed to come out.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And I don't think people understand that. Like, there's story upon story upon story. If you look at like queer history and stuff, where people get their medals, pensions, all that taken away. If before Obama completely just like said, yeah, no, if you want to fight for as a baby, please do. Mm-hmm. Becky's can't be choosies.
Right.
You know?
Well, I mean, I think it's all about like stereotypes too, right? Like,
absolutely.
Colleen is like 5'3", like 120 pounds, mm-hmm. and was the first female senior gunner in the state of Pennsylvania. So that's like, the big guns on top of I always call them tanks, and Colleen tells me they're not tanks, but like it's
what we would think as a tank
with the big gun on the top. Like that was her job, and to coordinate that and train other people on how to do that and all the weapons.
Because she's a badass.
Right. But you would never look at Colleen and be like, oh, let's respect her because she's going to be controlling that big piece of equipment on top of that tank.
Right. I think it's like you said, it's like...
And she's a lesbian.
Yeah. And it's I don't know. I think you're right. I think a lot of the stereotypes are like just the idea of like when we look at someone's the judgment right away, right? I there's nothing I love more than like the gym I go to now, I will say, is fucking amazing, and they just had a queer powerlifting event. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of trans people, when they enter like any sport, it's like, well, you can't do this one or this one, which for weightlifting and those things are as well. Because I'm like, you don't think that those cis men are not taking fucking mm-hmm. testosterone and all that shit, but it's beside the point. They did that, so it's an amazing gym. But ones that I would go to before, when I'd wear nail polish and I'd be like lifting and stuff, like people would kind of look at me. And then one time I was at the gym and I had like a camouflage shirt on. Mm-hmm. And this guy walked up to me and I'm lifting, and he goes, okay, like, it's just the two of us in this gym, mm-hmm. by the way. He goes, what's up with the nail polish? And I said, what? And he goes, why is that? And I'm confused, and I forgot I was wearing camouflage. He goes, what, is like a military thing? And I said, and I don't know what possessed me. I'm like, no, it's like a sucking dick thing. And
he goes, my God.
And the guy just walked away. I'm like, what would possess me to ever, one, be that confrontational, but say that? But I don't know. I think it's like this weird thing of like, the stereotype of like, I love me a brunch around drag queens, right? That's very stereotypical of me, of what people think, and I'm gonna kiki my way there because I love it. But it's like there are also queer people who like are in politics, are like, you know, at the Vatican, Mr. Pope, and like a bunch of other places. So I don't know. It's just always been a thing of mine. I'm like, we can take up space.
Oh, for sure. I
When
mean, stereotypes have always been a thing for me, obviously,
Yeah.
because I don't really fit a lot
this
of them.
this year, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. It's like we talked about it a little bit the last episode, and like I think it's like interesting to talk about more fully, right? Like queer people also don't look a certain way, and they don't have to look a certain way, right? So it's not like we're saying like, you know, to look one way or the other isn't more respectable or less or more professional or whatever. But it's interesting, right? Because like people have this preconceived notion or thought that like if you were a queer man, you should be like twinky, super skinny, full makeup, bleached hair. Which if you look like that, I've looked like that at times. I like it. Fun. Pop off, babes. And I think they assume everyone should look like Ellen DeGeneres.
Oh,
right?
for sure.
And so when you don't
Or
fit those
if
molds.
you look like Ellen DeGeneres, you could be with someone that looks like me, but I
Yeah.
shouldn't be with someone
Yeah.
who looks like
Yeah.
Portia.
Right.
For
Yeah,
example.
exactly. And so it's just this weird, I think the stereotype is there and in existence because it makes people feel comfortable. And I think it makes the straight people who question their sexuality comfortable, right? Because if a woman is like, oh, I'm not attracted to Ellen DeGeneres, and every woman out there is, you know, like a butch woman, like they're my weakness. I'm not gonna lie. I see a butch woman, I'm like, okay, baby. Like, anyways, I think that if they would to see a hyper feminine lesbian, they'd be like, wait a minute, that's not what they're supposed to look like. Am I attracted to that? And like, same with men. If they are not attracted to someone that's like super twinky, then to see like someone that looks like Henry Cavill or like Jonathan Bailey, who is gay, that challenges that idea of like, oh no, I can't be attracted to them, right? So sorry, babes, we're everyone we look like.
Yeah.
Everything.
I mean, people ask all the time, like, is it weird, like, for you and Colleen, like, do you, like, get jealous of how each other looks or, like, compete for attention or whatever? And I was like, no, I mean, to be honest, it's just annoying because I have to do her makeup.
Right. It's so weird because I don't think like, literally, now that you say that, I can look at other men and compare myself to them. Like, I want to look or work out that way or have skin that nice, whatever. I have never in a relationship been like, I want to look like you, or I'm jealous of the way you look or anything. It's not that competitive.
I mean, I'm jealous of Colleen's eyelashes and the fact that she, like, wakes up
Yeah.
looking the way she looks, sure. But,
Right.
like, you know, I wasn't born like that.
Yeah. I wasn't born that way to have
Yeah.
lashes like that.
And Disney princess hair, bitch.
Right. It's like, and I also like, I think naturally people in any hetero, homo, trans, whatever gender relationship it is, naturally have like jealousy issues, right? Like how many people have I counseled who's like one loses weight and the other one's not losing weight, or one's you know, has a higher paying job than the other. Like I don't think it has anything to do with gender, that when things kind of like sneak in those insecurities, like, baby, if you're insecure about everyone, you know?
Yeah.
I hate this question, but I'm going to try to like ask questions throughout this that like I feel like every straight person asks
yeah,
gay
let's
people.
do it.
So the first one, when did you know you were gay?
Oh my God, I hate that question. Honestly, I can't even tell you.
Yeah.
Like, I think I just, like, it was never, like, a big, like, question that I asked.
Yeah.
I just kind of, like, went into it.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I, like, verbally, like, labeled myself until I was older.
Yeah.
Because I think there was still that, like, fear of the stigma and, like,
For sure.
I could still be straight, probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, like, the hope that, like, you know, it would be a phase or whatever. And so it took a long time.
Did you ever, like, in your moment of realizing, like, for me, like, similar, like, I never not knew, right? And I think my moment of realization was when someone at school, I think I was in 3rd grade or 4th grade, was like, that's something gay. And I was like, what's that mean? Like, it's like when a boy likes a boy. And I was like, that's allowed. Like, it didn't occur to me that like that, like, not even allowed, like that was a thing. So I had, in second grade, like, you really don't have, like, you may have a crush, but, like, relationships aren't something that second, third graders thinking about. But I was like, oh, the way that they're describing this, like, I think I thought that everyone felt this way. And that, like, as I saw more, like, guys and girls pair off in a cold hands at recess, I'm like, oh, wait, I don't see two guys or two girls doing that. And I think that was the realization. I'm like, oh, I've always known this, but now I have a word for it, you know?
Yeah.
Did you ever have, like, a moment where you were like, oh, this is what this is?
This is going to sound really crazy, but, so I was probably like, this was like long after the whole, like, came out to parents had their moment and whatever, which we can get into. But, I was working at a residential facility, and one of my clients' moms, like, got divorced from the dad and then married a woman, you know, like the late in life lesbian thing. And, that was during the period of time where my parents weren't speaking to me.
Yeah.
So I guess I, like, you know, lesbians read lesbians, and the mom was kind of like, you should check out the L Word. Like, I think it would really, like, help you to watch it. And I was like, what is the L Word? And, like, then I spent the next, like, 3 weeks of my life, like, never leaving the TV. Like, every
Watching
time
it.
after a patient left, I'd be like, all right, let me watch. But, like, it, like, normalized life to me.
100%.
And I was like, oh, you can just, like, live like this.
This is a thing. Yeah. Like, you can, and it's weird, right? Because you grew up around this. We live in the Pennsylvania, like the Philadelphia suburbs.
I grew up in Delaware County,
So it's interesting to me when we're in rural or more conservative spaces, right? You probably didn't see people like the L Word around you to know that you could live like that.
and I went to Catholic school.
Exactly. So your idea of how you can live as a lesbian is probably from a very place of, like, again, stereotype or shame. And I will say that 100% when we're looking at, like, media and, like, anything else, right, the people who kind of get left out of having a narrative is women and trans women, right? So there were much more representation of gay men, right, whether it is stereotype or not, than there were of gay women in relationships, especially.
Right. And even on the L Word, like, I think it was maybe, like, the last 2 seasons where they brought trans people into the show, because that wasn't even a thing that the media touched probably until then.
Because, like, it's big for me too, like, when we're talking about, like, LGBTQIA plus issues, that the T's in there, and I say that because there's so many gay people that just because you're queer, gay, bi, does not mean that they're supportive of trans people, which is wild to me.
That's wild to me too.
100%. If you don't know Stonewall, to very shittily kind of wrap it up, that was a huge moment in queer rights, really, that set the tone of us having a seat at the table and having rights and being recognized as actual people, right? And it was started by trans women, okay? So when we joke about who threw the first brick at Stonewall, it was trans women. It was trans women of color on top of that, too. So for the fact that they are, one, the most susceptible to, like, violence and all that, but always left out of that narrative is wild.
And suicide, too.
Oh, my gosh. The rate of... The rate of death by suicide in the LGBT community is astronomically higher than hetero, and then
especially in adolescence.
Yeah, and then when the person is trans, it's like even that was not a cowbell, by the way. It was a Stanley.
It was my Stanley tumbler. Sorry.
I think it's like, you can ring my sorry. Yeah, so I think it's and you talked a little bit about the parent thing, right? And we'll get into that too, for sure. Do you remember your first crush?
Like, female crush? Oh.
You're like, yeah?
Fred Savage from The Wonder Years.
Michelle Pfeiffer, Catwoman.
Later, Ashley Parker, Angel of O-Town.
Isn't it weird that, like, so and we've definitely talked about this. I knew I was gay, but I saw Michelle Pfeiffer, Catwoman. I thought, oh, she's everything. And then I saw Chris O'Donnell as Robin, like, the next movie, and I was like, why do I feel so giddy when I see this man dressed as Robin and he had a nipple on his costume? Like, his costume had nipples on as Robin. It was very weird. And George Clooney was Batman for him and Val Kilmer, which is super gay. But but throughout adolescent, knowing I was gay, and I always, to this day, always will identify as gay. I'm probably way more bisexual, but it's, I think, more of just comfort, and I would never have a relationship or sexual relationship with a woman again. Been there, done that, super fun, not doing it again. But isn't it weird to be like, I'm definitely gay, and still having like crushes on people of the opposite sex?
Yeah.
Yours was Fred Savage and who?
Yeah. And
Ashley Parker
Ashley
Angel,
Parker Angel.
O-Town.
Yeah, O-Town.
And
yeah.
Fiero.
And Fiero, yes. Wicked.
Okay, so who do you think your first girl crush was?
Probably like Celine Dion.
Baby, listen. It's all coming back to me now.
I know.
Did you see her documentary?
No.
Of her, like, stiff person syndrome documentary?
No. When did that come out?
I think yesterday.
Oh, well, no, I didn't see it yesterday.
I
was watching Gypsy Rose Blanchard.
Oh, God. She has a chat. Okay, so you have to watch it.
Okay.
Sorry, we have to. If you haven't watched it, go watch it immediately. She's amazing. I love her, and I just want her to everything good to happen for her in life. When like Titanic Celine Dion or like
no. Like I had the cassette.
Shut up.
Yeah, the Celine Dion cassette. Do you remember? I think it was a CD eventually too, but like the background was white and she was kind of like white. I think
she's wearing the white button up.
Yeah,
and she's like,
yeah. Was that the "It's All Coming Back to Me"?
I think it has to be. I think it is.
I think it is.
The only other thing her cover of Alone. Till I wish
was that the black one?
I don't know, but that song.
Oh yeah.
There is
every Celine song.
There's a bar in Notre Dame, Indiana, like the university, called the Linebacker. Mm-hmm. Butch kind of college bar. A lot of people go there after games. Some of the players do. The theme song of the Linebacker in Notre Dame, Indiana, is "It's All Coming Back to Me Now."
Oh,
and there's nothing more wild than seeing these butch men of all ages. I'm talking anywhere between like 21, probably like 19, 20-year-olds, because they, and then like 60-year-old men go there after a game in ties, scream crying on the dance floor. It's all coming back to me now.
I would love it.
It is.
I would love it.
The amount of times I've gone there and done it, I'm like, this is gay rights.
There's nothing better than just like being alone in your car and like turning on "It's All Coming Back to Me Now," and like everything in your life just comes back to you now.
It's like a 20-minute intro.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
it's the best.
If you don't know what we're talking about, go listen to it.
Do you think that young people don't know Celine Dion?
No, I think they do, because I
good.
think "It's All Coming Back to Me Now" is so timeless, and like everyone's obsessed with the Titanic. If you don't know Celine Dion, like, okay, listen, it's a sin if a young person doesn't know like Britney Spears or like Christina Aguilera, right? Or if they know them from like, oh, Christina Aguilera from The Voice, and not. But you must know Celine Dion.
I hope
like
so.
It precedes any and all types of cultures.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask my style consultants because.
I'm gonna.
Oh, by the way, speaking of my style consultant, after our last episode, the bullying one, remember when I was like, "Would you have thought that I was cool, like, if you knew me then?" So I said that to her. I was like, "How do you think that I like was in high school?" Because like she's obsessed with me. Like she said she wants to be me when she grows up. And I was like, she's totally going to be like, yeah, Marie was like so cool.
Yeah.
And she was like, I picture you as sort of like the like artsy, nerdy type. And I was like, you did not just call me out like that. I was like, we're going to need to rewind and you need to re-say an answer because I don't accept it.
You're like, that's correct. But
right.
I don't want that to be the perception.
I was like, why did you see me? Get out.
I'm freaking dead right now. That's so funny.
No, I was so mad.
So let's get into a little bit of the parent stuff.
Okay.
I will say, because I think we talked a little bit before, and we've talked about this other than today, this is my opinion on coming out and parents, stuff like that, right?
Okay.
And when I talk to parents, either as a therapist, when I've talked to parents that have just like come to talk to me because like they know I'm gay, right? Because when you live in a small town, parents will just be, can I ask you a question? Um, I I always have a level of empathy towards everyone, right? But parents, when a child first comes out, and you can tell that they're not. If the parent was super close to their child, right? They weren't just a shitty parent and never gave a fuck about their kid, and you can see them grappling with this. A lot of the times, I think I feel a huge amount of empathy because if you talk to them when they do come around, their fears were either they were scared for their child, for their safety, but also when you talk to parents that grew up and deeply like religious, like both of our parents are Catholic. Well, mine's dead, so she's not Catholic anymore because she's
She
dead.
was.
Yeah, my dad was not though. But when you grow up in a conservative mindset and our religion is not just our religion but our culture and our everyday, right? That you when we come out, we're not asking for anything, by the way, because we don't we should being queer and having to come out is one of the few times in your life you have to stand in front of someone and tell them about yourself and then ask for them to still love you, right? Very few times do we have to do that in any other part of our lives. So I always have a level of empathy for parents because ones that want to figure out why they're having an issue with it and want to be better and do better, and but they have to rethink their entire understanding of life and understanding what that means for their child, and they have to challenge everything they know, right? And that's not something that happens at the flip of a switch, unfortunately, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that it's important that one, we understand that even if it's a difficult thing, and you come around, we are always going to remember what you said in that moment, right? But it is not too late to show up. I think that as long as you do show up, as long as you are there, that something can be rebuilt and relationships can be reestablished. And I say this because it's complex, and it's not that I do not harbor any hate or anger to my mom with the way that she responded at first, and I like fully forgive her for it. And I think I share my story because it shows empathy towards parents that are having a difficult time, but it also shows to other queer kids out there that like parents can't come around. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so I just like to say that because I never want a parent out there to be like, well, I've said too much, I can't go back and be better. And I don't also want parents to feel bad if they're like,
Yeah. Well, I was just telling you before we started filming about the video of the lesbian wedding with the mom.
Tell the story.
Yeah.
It's
okay.
Beautiful.
So I'll try to find the video and we can like link it in the YouTube because it is really worth watching. So it was this lesbian wedding, and the mom of one of the girls got up to like give a speech at the wedding. And she started the speech where she was like calling the names of like people in the crowd. Like she was like, Aunt Jenny, Trish, blah, 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 called them all. And then like once everyone was standing, she was like, you were all there for, Mary, like when I couldn't be. Or right. She was much more eloquent than that. But, and then she goes into her speech where she is talking about the Buddha, when the Buddha's gold, and then like people are going to come into the town to try to steal it, so the town like covers it in mud. Mm-hmm. And she equates it with like she was covering her daughter in mud, and then the town like eventually so much time passes that the town forgets that the Buddha wasn't mud, and then like just one day like it cracks and you can like see the gold, and then it comes out again. But I sent it to my mom after I watched it, and I'm like sobbing. I still like cry every time I watch it. And I was like, Mom, I need you to watch this. And she like watched it, and she was like, I'm crying too. And I was like, Mom, if you don't give a speech like that at my wedding, I'm going to be devastated. Promise me you will. And she was like, okay, but Mom, are you going to? Because
I'll help her write
I need you to. Yeah.
No, I think it's, I totally just, I'll say it when the cameras are off, I'll say it. I just thought of the best thing that she could say at your wedding. That is wait. A huge like Wizard of Oz thing.
Oh, that's perfect. I can't wait.
Yeah, I think it's true, right? Because it's and I don't know about your experience. I'll talk about mine, and then if you feel comfortable talking about yours,
Yeah,
please,
I have some stuff to
Yeah.
say.
So I was outed at my school. It was devastating by my principal, my senior year. And at that time, my close friends, most people knew I was gay by that time. I just hadn't said it to like not my circle. And I can't even get into the episode of everything that happened, but was outed by my principal because he's a shit person. And yeah, I hope that you are living a horrible life right now. Eventually, my mom, we were at my grandma's house, and we were going to the grocery store to get like coffee. Again, very Puerto Rican family. We went to go get like coffee cake or something that they could eat with, snack on. Because my mom was one of 12 kids. And as we're going, my mom was like, "Come with me," and I was like, "You're gonna run down the road." She'd come with me. Okay, so I get into the car with her. And as we're driving, she was like, "What's your preference?" And I was like, and I had no idea what she was talking about. I was like, "Well, I really wanted to go to Ball State University, but I got accepted into the theater program, but not the school. So I guess that I'm going to try to go to IPFW." And she's like, "No, no, no. Do you like men or women?" And I was like, oh my God. Now, at the time, I had just broken up with the girlfriend I had that I was very attracted to, that both romantically, sexual, and all that. But I also, earlier that year, my senior year, I was like in love with a guy who had broke my heart, who absolutely did not love me back. So I was like, I like men. I don't not like women, but like, yeah. And my mom just responded. She's like, "But you're my only son." And I'm like, "I'm still a boy. Like, I'm still your son. And now maybe one day if I get married to a man, like you'll have two sons." Like, and so we left it at that. The conversation was awkward when we got back. We did the grocery shop and got back in the car. It was okay. I got to my grandma's. I'm texting my best friend of like now like 25 years, and I was like, I just kind of came out to my mom, was freaking out, and I was like, everything kind of is okay, but does one of you want to come pick me up and like hang out for the rest of the day? So that was like late May, right? Of going into my freshman year of college. I get to about July, August. So we're really heading towards, school time and leaving, right? I was the first one in my family to like leave for school. And my mom, earlier that year in February, she had lost her dad, and it put her into a psychotic episode. She was in the hospital for a few days and had just a complete emotional breakdown, like resorted to childlike behavior and all that. So it was, suffice to say, my grandpa dying, her father dying was devastating to her. And she had told me, we were in the garage, and she was smoking, and she was like, "I feel like you're in a burning house and I can't get you out." And I was like, "What?" And she said, "You being gay is more heartbreaking than my father dying." And I was like, "Man, that almost killed you, like." And so I was devastated. I was like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, you, and I think this is an important thing for parents to know too. You saying things like that, right? And I know sometimes it's especially when my mom was, again, conservative and religious. I think she truly thought if she said enough or said the right thing, it would make me not gay. And that's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. That's why we see such a high rate of depression and death by suicide when people go to conversion therapy camps. It does not work. And so I stopped talking to her for a while, which was, my mom and I were super close. And I go to my freshman year of school. She drops me off. She was kind of emotionless. My sister was there. She's like, "Hug your fucking son," kind of thing. She was still super close with my friend Tana, my best friend of, years. She's like a family member. We went to school together, to college. Couldn't separate even then, so we just went to college together. And she would, "Tell hasn't texted me. Telly hasn't texted me. Why haven't I heard from Telly?" And she's like, "I don't know what to tell you." And my friend reminded me, my mom, my school didn't have cafeteria dorms. We had apartments, so you had to cook for yourself. But that was the student housing. All the student housing was apartments.
Oh.
So my parents would buy me groceries, and I would go home like every 2 weeks to pick them up because I was about an hour and 15 minutes away from home. One of the times I went to go do it, I was taking the groceries out. I think I blocked this out because I was so upset. And I get to the bottom of the grocery thing. My mom had put like a bunch of mini Bibles in there. And I was like,
"What is a mini Bible?"
"Oh my God. Okay. If you don't..." This is such a Midwest thing, and they give it out at fairs. It is like a pocket Bible. It's like this big. It's leather, and they're like, mine was bright orange as a kid, but they're like a bunch of different colors, and you can get them for free at fairs. They hand them out or at parades instead of like throwing candy. They throw Bibles. Swear to God. I'll bring one in. I'm going home in July, so I'll bring one in.
Okay.
So she did that, and I was, devastated. Well, I'd got my first official boyfriend, nicest human I've ever met in my life. Went to a Mennonite college, was super religious, beautiful human being. And I think cried was more upset when they broke up with me, because I was not ready for a relationship, and they were so sweet about it. Came to my school, held my hand, broke up with me, and then waited a while to make sure I was okay. I was devastated. I called my mom. I said, "Hey, me and my boyfriend broke up, and I'm super sad. Can I come home?" And she's like, "Oof, me and your stepdad are in an argument. Just probably wouldn't be good if you came home this weekend." And I was like, so I called my older sister. She's 10 years older, and she's like, "Absolutely, come home." I said, "Okay." So she's like, you can stay with me." So I stayed with her in her guest room. And the next morning I woke up to my mom sitting in bed, and she's like, "So what's going on?" I was like, and I'm bawling now. I'm hysterical. I was broken up with, and I really loved him, and I thought we were gonna get married. We dated for like a month. And so I remember her like laying down in bed next to me, and she's like, "So this is like a thing?" And I said, "Yeah." And I was like, I loved him. And I think when she had to take her notions of like gay just means sex and sin and all this stuff, and that it's like love, and how devastated I was by this, right? After that, it was never an issue. It was, we talked about it constantly. She met all my boyfriends after that. There's a picture of me, her, and Jason at my engagement party. My mom didn't make it. Oh God, why would I cry in this episode? She didn't make it to our wedding. We had to push it back a year, so she passed away before that. But she had planned almost our entire wedding, which was super great.
Well, now you have a picture of her at the wedding.
I do, yeah. There's Anne Marie for my birthday had a digital copy where she's like in our wedding photo now. So she very much came around. It was, I think, difficult because when I told my stepdad, her husband, he is Chuck Norris, backwoods hunting, factory worker, man's man, right? And was bawling because he was so happy for me. Like just in tears. He's like, "I'm just so happy that you're out and that you're yourself," right? I never came out to my dad because I didn't have to. I was with my best friend when I was 19 at his house over the summer between freshman and sophomore year of college, and my dad just starts cracking up hysterically. He goes, "So when are you going to tell me that DJ's your boyfriend and not best friend?" And I was like, "What?" Because we were like all watching a movie together. He's like, "I have known since you were 2. Mm-hmm. He's like, "I've known since you could walk, since you could talk. I've been waiting for you to just tell me." So I think it was the whiplash of having the complete opposite. The parent that was like, and then my mom's husband, and then my dad, the men in my world being like, "Come as you are, we're so happy for you." My dad has always been the biggest supporter. Walked me down the aisle at my wedding, like holding my hand. I think was devastated that I didn't do a first dance with him because I was supposed to do it with my mom. Just like, I don't think yours was as much of a straddle.
No, it definitely wasn't. So, for me, the trajectory is like kind of long and complicated,
yeah.
But the one thing I will say is my first partner never pressured me to like come out to anyone.
You had your first partner, you weren't out?
No,
okay.
Not even to my best friend.
Okay. Oh my gosh, to anyone?
No.
Yeah, that's hard because if you were to tell your parents at that time, right? What was your, like, I knew if I told I thought if I told my family that they'd be accepting some were, like I said, but like, what did you think would happen?
So I think at that time I was like, this isn't for real. Like, I'll just like get over this. And like once
I can assimilate.
Yeah.
Too.
Like once it's over, then like I'll go back to like living my like heterosexual life, and like the longer the time went on, the more that didn't happen. And so then like my mom started to like get suspicious, but like not in a good way, in like a like you better not do this type way. So there were multiple times that like I had pushed Lauren away, and I say Lauren's name because like we're good. Colleen and I went to brunch with her and her wife.
Right.
So
She's good people.
Yes, for sure. But yeah, so with Lauren, which I think we should ask her to come on the podcast because she has like such a great story of resilience, I think, and that's relevant because she lost her dad when she was 14 and then her mom died by suicide when she was 18.
She was a baby.
I know she was a baby, and the way we met was she was my like administrative assistant at Kids Piece, my first job. So I always like joked with her. She like put stickers on my prescription pads, which is like what she did. But now she's in a governor appointed position as the Bureau Director for Community Supports for Individuals with Intellectual Disabilities.
We're everywhere.
Yeah.
We're everywhere.
She's
and everyone.
like a bigger deal than me, for sure.
Look at her go.
I know.
And she never pressured you to come out.
No, never.
That's so sweet.
Yeah. So, but during that time, she didn't have a place to go on a lot of holidays, right? Because
both parents are
like
gone.
the parent thing. So over the years, like she had come with me to things like as my friend who didn't have parents, which was actually convenient that, you know, she was the friend that didn't have parents.
Right.
But then once my mom got suspicious, that like wasn't a thing that was okay anymore. And then my mom like came to know that Lauren was living with me like at my current house.
So did your mom and dad ever come over to the house and like she was just always there if they came over, or?
No, because this happened like, so Lauren lived with me and Molly when Molly's my best friend from St. Louis in Conshohocken. And like that was when we were legitimately friends.
Yeah.
So then there was a period of time when Molly left and I was still in Conshohocken. I lived like by myself.
Right.
And then I moved into my current house by myself.
Right.
And that was sort of that period where I was like, oh, like go away, Lauren, bye. Like this. So that happened like a few times where I was like, okay, I'm straight. Like go away. I'm going to go back on Match.com type thing.
100%.
So then by the time she moved in, that was like the final. Once she moved into my current house, like that was, there was no other breaks in that. So anyway, so she, my mom was suspicious, whatever. And then like eventually I got to the point where like, because Lauren was so supportive, then I think I got to the point where I was like, this is just unfair. Like to me, to Lauren, to the universe, like I just can't. So the next time that my mom accused me, which happened often,
she would accuse.
Oh, for sure.
She accused, or she would be like, are you a lesbian?
Oh,
or,
no.
It
was just accusatory.
Oh.
Like bad.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And so I just like didn't argue the next time it happened. I was just like, you're right. Like, absolutely 100% you're right. And that was then my dad called me. They told me I was going to hell. All sorts of like horrific things, like that they were disowning me and whatever. And I blocked out like a lot of that time, but that lasted for about 6 months at least, of like zero contact whatsoever. My brother also didn't speak to me during that time. Yeah.
I'm always surprised by siblings. I've had multiple clients that I've worked with that were working on coming out as adults, and usually siblings are a tried and true and right there.
I don't know that he was against it, but he definitely didn't like contact me to be supportive.
It's the two of you too, right? So like it does put him in a spot of like, will my parents also disown me if I don't? Right.
Well, but if the tables were reversed, I would have 100% gone to him. But
I say all the time, like that bond is closer than anything. With me and my sisters, like that's something you don't fuck with. I will always be right there. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was not. So so my parents, so we missed like Mother's Day, Father's Day, my brother's birthday. Then I thought, like, there's no way they're going to, like, ignore me on my birthday. Nope. Didn't hear from them on my birthday. Yeah. Then eventually I got a card in the mail, I think that fall, from my grandmom, from, like, my 90-year-old grandmom. Oh. Okay. I still don't remember what it said, but it was, like, a nice card. So I called her. And we just like talked, and she was like, you know, I don't think your parents are ready to talk to you yet, and, you know, whatever. And like, so she and I kept in contact a little bit, but I knew that my in with my mom would be my grandmom saying that my mom wasn't ready to talk to me, because that would piss my mom off.
Was that your mom's mom?
No, my dad's mom.
So it's her mother-in-law too.
Yeah, that's why I knew. That's why I knew.
Yeah.
If I told, so I had reached out to my mom and I said, you know, like, I was talking to grandmom, and grandmom said that
Was
she
grandma
didn't think
supportive?
in a non-verbal way.
I mean, obviously, if she's sending you a card and calling you on the
Right.
phone and talking about the relationship, she's...
So she was in support of my parents not disowning me.
Yeah.
And really, I 100% believe that, oh my God, now I'm going to get emotional too. If my grandmom and my nana, like, hadn't spoken to my mom, that we would not be where we are right now.
I have to
100%.
say, it's our older generation, right? It's that I promise you, the stereotypes out there, but the people who are in their 90s, right, have lived a life of things that they do regret not doing or standing up for. And so the fact that grandma was like, I can't let this happen to my grandchild, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and my nana, you know, talked to my mom too, and so when we started talking again, it was just me and my mom took the don't ask, don't tell approach.
I just don't want to hear about it.
Right. So, like, we can talk, but I don't want to hear anything. So...
Which is so hard, because that's such a big part.
So I went to the house for the first time in however many months that had been, like 6 or 8, or I don't know. And it was really awkward, and I like didn't talk about anything and whatever. And so then Thanksgiving came, and my mom was like, "You're coming for Thanksgiving, right?" And I was like, "Mom, I told you that if you're not supportive of Lauren, like, I'm not leaving Lauren alone on Thanksgiving because you won't, like, recognize
100%.
it." And she, like, didn't say anything, like, didn't budge, whatever. So I was like, all right, so if you're not going to be supportive, like, I'll come bring dessert, and that's it. Like, I'm not staying. And so I think that, I'm trying to think. I think that for some reason I didn't end up going over at all, but I went to one of my friends' families who was supportive. And so that was like the first holiday other than my birthday that my parents missed that, like, I wasn't at and everyone else was at, my grandmom included. So that happened. And I think my mom didn't expect for me to follow through with that. I think she thought that I, like, would just come around and do it, but I didn't. And so, like, I have this very distinct memory then of, I always cook Christmas Eve dinner myself, like the 7 fishes, because my grandmom taught me how to do it. And then as my grandmom got older, she couldn't do it anymore. So like, you know, it was me doing it. So, I was going to do it anyway, like, regardless of the thing with Lauren. So I went to pick up the bacala, which is like the salted codfish, from my mom. And I was pulling out of the driveway, and she, like, came up to the window of the car, and I, like, put the car window down, and she was like, "Emery, I want you to bring Lauren tomorrow." Oh. And I was like, "What?" And she was like, I want you to bring Lauren tomorrow. It was terrible, like, without you on Thanksgiving. Yeah. And I don't want her to not have anyone. And, like, from that Christmas Eve on, it was never a problem again.
Was that, like, the best Christmas gift ever?
Yeah, but then when Lauren and I broke up, my mom didn't talk to me after that either.
Because she liked Lauren so much?
Because she said she lost a daughter.
Oh.
But I think if we go, like, forward in time now, my mom would be like, Colleen is, like, my mom's life. Like, I think my mom would save Colleen if a building was on fire and we were both in it.
She's like, Emery will find her way out, probably.
Yeah, no, like, literally. My mom's like, we were at the bridal place where I'm getting my dress altered, and we were, like, me, my mom, and the seamstress were sitting down, and we were talking about, like, Colleen, scheduling Colleen's dress or whatever. So she saw like a picture of Colleen on my schedule book and she was like, "Oh, Colleen's so beautiful." My mom's like, "And she's a beautiful person on the inside.
Oh.
She's a very beautiful person on the inside. Let me tell you." I'm like, "Mom, relax." Okay. Like she can't like not talk about Colleen. But I do, I mean, her and Lauren were close and Lauren still, when my grandma, when my Nana passed away, like her and Heather, her wife, like sent a card to my mom. And, that's why I say like, I'm not a gaslighter because I only talk shit on every other ex other than Lauren.
Yeah.
So like that counts,
I think we all have an ex that we're like, oh, they're a great person, just didn't work out. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have to ask, did you ever like take a moment during like dress fittings or tastings or whatever to just be like, would you have thought on Thanksgiving when you didn't go see your parents, right, that your mom would be an integral part of like actually planning a wedding?
I think if you asked me that 3 years ago before I met Colleen, I still would have told you no. Yeah. Like I remember at my brother's wedding rehearsal, I was like standing at the altar because I was a bridesmaid and my mom was standing in front of me. I think she was like standing in for some reason. And my sister-in-law's dad was playing the organ. So when they were like rehearsing, my dad walked her down the aisle and all I kept thinking, like looking at it was like, my dad must be thinking like, I'm never going to get to do this with Anne-Marie. So, anyway, it came to a point, I think, where like I was then more self-conscious than my parents were. And my dad had a conversation with me where he was like, "Emery, you need to like realize that like we're supportive and whatever," because I was like losing my mind about my parents and my brother and my sister-in-law and like her family, like all being a family and like me being like,
you felt like you the kid, like the wallflower, just like observing from the outside.
So anyway, so my dad talked with me and things got better after that. And then I told my parents and my mother-in-law, still to this day, actually your husband's the one that pointed this out, but if you look at the engagement video, like when we got engaged, like it was a surprise and like her family was in a line and her mom has this like horrific look on her face and like turns around and Jason was like, "Does your mother-in-law hate you?" And I was like, "Oh my God, does she?" But she was just so surprised because apparently I told her that I would tell her when I was proposing.
And so she was like, this couldn't be it.
Right. But then she was upset because I told my mom and I was literally like, "Roseanne, I told my mom because I was worried that she was going to stand up and walk out of the party." I needed to know that like this was not going to be a drama. It wasn't like, "Mom, let me help you. Like help me plan." It was like, "Mom, are we going to be good?"
And I don't think I've met your soon-to-be mother-in-law in person, but
you didn't meet her at the Christmas party?
Oh, I did. I'm lying. But she sent me a text one time and it was super sweet. She was wanting to know when to plan a bridal shower or something. I'm like, please do not plan a bridal shower around like the availability of the summer because I never know my schedule. But I was like, I will make it work. I'll if I'm somewhere, I'll fly back for it. But it was so sweet. I was like,
she really is. She's doing the bridal shower and she's like so excited about it. And she's like, "I just want it to be perfect for you, Emery." And like, I keep telling her, I'm like, "I think you think I'm more of like a bitch than I am." Like I'm definitely a bitch for some things, but like I would never walk into something that like someone did for me or like let alone she did for me and be like, "Roseanne, this centerpiece is hideous." You know, like I'm gonna go in and be like, "I can't believe I'm even having a wedding shower," because I didn't think that at all ever in a million years. Like I literally never thought that my parents would give me a list of people that they would invite to my wedding. Like never.
It's little emotional moments like that, right? That you're just like I remember before walking down the aisle, and like this song started playing and we walked down to the Up theme, and my dad like grabbed my hand and stuff like that. Like I never thought my dad wouldn't be supportive, but like there was a moment that I was like, I think that, fifth grade Tal, who is scouring his Bible for young teens or whatever, looking for a way to fix it, would have ever thought that a day where his dad was walking down the aisle to marry a man would be a thing, and that we'd be surrounded by like so many people that we love, right? It's such a wild experience, right? That I don't think when we talk about things like the mental health and rate of death by suicide around queer people, that, I mean, you heard at least 2 stories, and our stories aren't unique. This is things so many people have, that like, that is why. I had said before, we had some technical difficulties at a moment, but coming out as queer or trans or queer and trans or whatever you identify, is one of the few times in your entire life you will have to stand in front of people you love and say, this is such an integral part of who I am, please still love me, right? And I said that one time, I was like, what about if someone gets pregnant and their parents didn't tell them, right? Like, it's a very different experience, right? And how that happens often, not nearly as often, right, as it happens with queer people. And so I think that, like, it's hard. And that's hard sometimes. Like, I think sometimes we forget, and I think maybe, if anything else, it's my way of gently reminding you, because you're not much older than me, but like, it's weird that I feel it's that, like, I've done the wedding thing but like, I was reminded, especially queer people, that like, take those moments in, especially when you didn't think it was going to happen, because like, that feels so much more healing. And it's moments like that when we rightfully so can feel angry or still hurt by some of the things of our past, that is healing to see that our parents, after everything's said and done, that when it got to brass tacks of it all, like, the absence of you at a major holiday was so hard and hurtful to them that they would rather you come exactly as you are than to miss something else again.
And what I will say is, and I tell this to my clients a lot, and just other people who talk to me, like, I truly believe that had I not stood up for myself and for Lauren at that Thanksgiving, that we would not be here right now.
Yeah.
I don't think that, because what reason would my parents have had to change the don't ask, don't tell, thing that we had? And I know a lot of people who are married and still like have to have holidays separate.
It's you're asking someone to be okay with a love that's conditional, right? To say, well, I don't care if you're gay, I just don't want to hear about it, right? Because how often at times have we been having a casual conversation with a cousin, a friend, or whatever, and they don't bring up their spouse or loved one, or it's such a big ask to be like, just don't talk about it. It's like, but then you're not loving me for me, because especially when you're in a relationship with someone and you want to share that.
And I do want to say, like, about my mom too, like, my mom could not be more like supportive, and she was like very apologetic, and she's done like a lot of like stuff around like her relationship with God and Jesus loving everyone and whatever. Like, my mom,
this literally honestly, the sweetest woman. I like when we first talked about this like months ago, I was like, I would not. She's just like the sweetest, kindest like woman.
Yeah. Well, she's obsessed with you too. She's like, walked me all the way to the car. I was like, because we were at a funeral, and I knew the person who lost their mom is like my best friend, and it is in a very roundabout way related to your family. And so you knew like everyone there. So your dad got the car, your mom was going to leave and was just going to like walk by herself. And I'm like, oh my gosh, no, like grab my arm and walk off. But she's so sweet. And that's what I'm saying. I mean, I told this to my mom when, she came around and stuff like that. I think sometimes it's hard for parents, and it's sometimes uncomfortable for parents, because especially for a parent, they just want to forget that they hurt their child, right? And I think it's not anything that the parent should be, not that they should be proud of it, right? But to have the shame there, for me, is silly, but also to not talk about it, or at least share a bit of it. You talking about this, and us talking about this, I can guarantee you a parent or someone will hear this, and it will change their perspective, or it'll make them think twice before saying something. And it's not that, it's our parents get to teach others I mean, and honestly, like the story I told last week about one of my parents' best friends calling and saying that their
Yeah.
son was gay too. Like, I I have empathy for my parents. I totally get it. And if
Uh-huh.
anything, like I do have some anxiety for my parents about how their friends are going to respond at the
Yeah.
wedding. I'm sure that they feel that and they would never tell me that they feel that.
Yeah.
But I'm sure they do because I do.
Yeah.
So like was what happened ideal? No, but I do realize my parents had to
Yeah.
shift a lot of
Yeah.
ideologies and culture and whatever to like get to where they
Yeah.
are.
And we do that when we love someone, right? Like
Yeah.
we change our ideations and we change how we feel about things because you'll sit there and say, well, do I want to be in a religion or have a faith that like hates?
Right.
It's a very,
Right.
yeah.
And I think like my mom calls Colleen her daughter. Like I think that like if my mom hadn't given like Lauren a chance,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
millions of other people I introduced her to in between, which I shouldn't have, but and then Colleen like a chance, like look what my mom would have been missing
Yeah.
out on. Like before my mom used to cry and be like, I wanted you to have kids. I'm like, Mom,
I can still have
there's
kids.
still two uteri.
Yeah.
Like,
We
we
can
could
still have
actually
children.
easily have children more. But ever since Colleen, she's like, when are you going to have a baby? When are you
Right.
going to
She's
have a
like,
baby? Yeah.
it's, I will always say, and again, I say this to clients when they're coming out, are working on that. You can know to your bones, this is how my parents are going to respond, right? And sometimes 100% right. It is important to note that a lot of the times, like my mom was the biggest, which is wild, advocate. If a cousin of mine came out, they came to my mom first, right? If someone at school was gay or had any issue, I would come home and like someone from school would be like in the garage talking to my mom. I'm like, what the fuck is this? And they weren't friends of mine. When it's your child, it changes the perspective because it's personal. You can't just be like, well, that's not my issue, right? And a lot of times when that happens, you can have a parent that you're like, they're not gonna be accepting. It's gonna be this, this, and this, and maybe it is at first. But then again, because it's something that they can't just keep ignoring and they have to decide, I love my child. I love my child for the last 30 some years. Is this going to be the deciding factor? And then it's easy to sit there and be like, all these people are going to hell and it's immoral. But then when you realize it's your child, and then you get to see what it means to be, for them to genuinely be in love, and that if you still made the choice to not go to Thanksgiving and family means that much to you, I think it was a wake up call of like, this isn't a phase. And if she could make a choice to not be gay, I
1,000%.
like, and that's the thing of like, if I as a kid if it was a choice, baby, many people wouldn't wake up to have a harder life. And in my case, I don't know what fucking person would want to be into men because they're terrible.
Right.
So it's
Seriously.
like, so even the more,
Well,
but
and I think that's another factor for parents too. Like they don't want their kids to have a harder life, and
yes.
knowing that their kid is going to have a harder life is really difficult. So I think that's another like place to be empathetic for parents as well.
I did not know until a year ago. A year ago, my husband and I got married it's gonna be 7 years ago this October. That my dad called my sister, I guess, or the week leading up, and was like in tears because he was so scared someone would hurt me at my bachelor party.
Oh.
And I was like, I didn't know that. And she's like, yeah, I don't think he wanted you. Like, it wasn't that he was like, whatever, but it was something that like he never talked about. My mom did eventually. When she did come around, we had that like, this is why I responded this way. She was like, I had to a lot of parents have to establish their dreams and goals for their
Yes.
child.
Yes.
That's a very real thing, right? And it takes time. My mom was like, that was some of it. I had to just rethink what life would look like for you. And she's like, and it also, I was so scared. She saw how much I got teased in school that she's like, I'm scared for your safety. And I think that's parents are going to worry for your safety. And so when they think you're choosing to have a harder time, it's different. But when they can see then what no one would choose to have harder. It's if I haven't changed my mind yet, I don't think it's a choice, babe. Again, I wouldn't choose to like men. They're terrible.
No. And I mean, I think what you said is right. Like, if we could at least affect like one parent that
Yeah.
goes back and
Yeah.
changes the direction of
Yeah.
their life and their kid's life.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
even doing this once is worth it.
100%.
Like, imagine what our lives would have been like if your mom didn't come around or my
Oh my
parents
God.
didn't come around.
I would have been devastated, right? At one point I had my younger sister, who actually out of my entire family was who knew first was my younger sister, because I had my heart broken by a guy who didn't like me going into my senior year of high school. No, just finishing high school, and I was like bawling hysterically, and she's like, "What's going on?" And I was like, "I can't tell you." It's difficult to go through heartbreak and not be able to tell anyone, especially the people you're close to. I was very close to my family and my sisters, still am. And I was like, I liked a boy and he just liked me back and this. And she sat there, and she is younger than me by a year. And she goes, "We don't cry over boys." And I was like, "Why?" And she goes, "We never cry over boys." And she wiped my tears away and was super sweet. And then she went through really difficult postpartum. And she was just kind of trying to grab to anything that like felt like it grounded her. And she found a very contemporary church that was very homophobic. And I remember her calling me a month before my engagement party, and it's like, "I love you and I don't think you're going to hell." And I was like, "Okay." She's like, "But I can't support and go to this and this. And I love Jason and I love you guys being around the kids. I don't know if you worry about that, but I can't do this." And it was I even to this day when I talk about it rivals losing my mom, like when my mom passed away. And she came around, she was at the wedding, and she danced with, my sisters and my stepmom did the mother-son dance with me, surprised me with it. And there's a picture of her, and she's just grabbing onto me sobbing, and she keeps apologizing. She's in the photo, I mean, with us, and we're all very close again, but it's devastating. It's devastating when...
Yeah. Well, that just reminded me of, remember my friend from college that I asked to be in the wedding?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, little story time.
Yeah.
When I was asking people to be in my bridal party, like, I had this friend from college for like, I mean, we were like really close. And like he was in the military, so like he was deployed a lot. So we only got to see each other like during certain times, because he was like literally deployed. He was in the Navy, so you got deployed for like a bajillion years.
Sure do.
Anyway, so he retired from the military, so he was around the area more. So me and Colleen and him and his wife were hanging out a lot, and like it was never
weird
like
or
an issue.
awkward.
I knew that his family was super religious, because like I wasn't out like when we were in college, so it was never an issue then. But I do know when like they're sort of like the pray mental health away type, you know. Anyway, but you can't pray psychosis away. So
babes.
But anyways, so when I asked him to be in the wedding, like I didn't think anything of it, right? Like, because I had even said something to his wife like beforehand, and like she didn't say anything to me. And then like he texts me, and he was like something about, anyway, the gist of it was like, "No, I can't support. I can't. Not only can I not be in the wedding, I can't come to the wedding."
Right. Can't do anything affiliated with it.
So like I immediately like am like sobbing, and like then I guess he calls me and I didn't answer it. So I was like talking to Jason, and I was like, "Jason, you have to listen to the voicemail. Like I can't do it."
She had my husband listen to the voicemail and tell her if she should listen to it.
And Jason was like, "Absolutely not. Do not listen to it. It's horrible." And he was like, "No, it's not worth it to listen to."
Yeah. And if I remember, it wasn't like, he wasn't like being malicious and saying like names or anything. He was just attempting to kind of save face, but also like justify the reason. It's like, babes, that's shitty to sit there and think you have a legitimate reason to not support
but
someone.
I guess the justifying then like further invalidated it. I don't know. All I know is Jason's response was,
"Don't.
Emery, how were you friends with someone like this?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, that voicemail is probably not good."
Here's the thing. We get to, I hate the RuPaul, we get to choose our family, but we do choose our family. We have our family, chosen family, all that. I don't know a queer person that would have someone that close to them in their life if they thought they weren't being supportive. And so that would be devastating to be like, I had no inclination that you'd be a piece of shit. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, like it is wild to me that, like, people being queer is the line so many people draw. Right. And then I see their other friends or people they associate themselves with, and I'm like, ew.
And I reached out to my friend PJ, who's coming to the wedding also, who we were all like friends together. And I was like, can you believe that? And she was like, honestly, I wouldn't have even thought it would go that far.
No. I mean, like, because it's so strange, right? When people are like, willing to hang out with you and this, and then the line's like, oh, the wedding, right? We didn't have any religious undertone, verse, Bible, anything at ours. Our friend Samantha, who's a 5-time best-selling author, married us, and I thought it was something that, like, when I was going to invite all my aunts and uncles, but that would all of them are married, so that's 22 people, and then you'd have to invite cousins. It would be my sister's wedding was like 200 and some people, and I was like, I don't want that. A big thing I was gonna be like, oh, it's not religious, so like you shouldn't have an issue going to a wedding when there's not a religious undertone if you're okay with Jason being around, which I actually have no idea if they were. But it's wild to me if your thing is like religion, right? And that's going to be your, but you can hang out with the people, you can do this, and this. It's giving the love the sinner, not the sin. And I hate when people say that. It's the most offensive shit you can say. I feel like
that might have been the tone of the second voicemail, because Jason also screened the second voicemail. Yeah. And Jason was like, the theme is basically like, are you really going to throw our friendship away over me being homophobic?
I absolutely am, and I'm going to do it, clicking the entire way.
Literally never responded, though. From when I asked him to be in the wedding, and he said, I couldn't even say it. There was no response. Yeah. And nothing that I said would have even, expressed how it made me feel or changed how he felt. Yeah. So I was just like, well, this sucks, so...
Letting the person know that you're not thinking of them, or that you can't even give a response, is the biggest response we can ever give, right? To be like, I can't even tell you what it felt like because it felt so shitty, or I just don't have words, and because of that, and I'm sorry, here's the gag: if you would have been like, I fucking hate your wife, divorce her, I can't be around her, sorry, I can't support it, he wouldn't be your friend, right? So why is are you going to throw away our friendship just because I don't want to go to your wedding or be in your wedding or support your love for your wife, the person that you found in life that makes you feel like a whole person? Fuck off, dude. I'm sorry. Absolutely fuck off. We don't need that. We do not need to surround ourselves with, people who can only half support us.
And we won't get into it, but trust me, you don't throw stones if you live in a glass house.
Babe, listen. Yeah, the cliche, and there's a lot of mental health and queer advocates out there that are gonna be when I say this, but as people who've studied the mental health and seen plenty of research behind it, the loudest opposers of queer people are the ones who want to dilly-dally a little bit. Want to dilly-dally a little bit into gay stuff, Mm-hmm. You know that? Have you ever come across that guy's TikTok who, he's always eating? Always fucking eating. And he's always like, have you, what was the stitch I did the other day? I think it's the right stuff is he's a super conservative guy. And he always thinks he has these, hot takes. And they're always, 10 seconds long. He's always, about to take a bite of something. It makes me want to punch the wall. But he was ever noticed that drag queens never read to people at retirement homes? And he eats a big ass burger. And I want to be so I made a stitch of it yesterday of a simple Google search of 10 photos of drag queens reading to the elderly at retirement homes and stitched it. And I had said in it, because this guy is always talking about trans, queer, gay, drag queens, and I'm like, baby, for being a straight man, you think and talk about gay people a lot. Want to unpack that, because here's the thing: as a gay, I don't think about straight people that fucking much. No. And you know what? I make it a point to talk to them as little as possible during Pride Month.
Oh, for sure.
Baby, I'm sorry.
No. They're on
booked and busy. Yeah, you need, unless you are getting me gifts and showering me with compliments.
Wearing rainbow.
Yeah, I need a break for a moment. I don't even think of straight people that much. I definitely don't think of straight sex that much as often as homophobic people talk about gay people, specifically like sex and gay people. Honey, what you doing thinking about that constantly? There's entire accounts dedicated to like being homophobic. There are charities and foundations out there dedicated to homophobia. I don't know that there are any out there that are against the straights.
That fund homophobic legislation.
Yeah.
Mormons.
Yes, sure is. I gotta say this. Have you seen the whole Match My Freak trend on the TikTok?
No, what is
So
it?
it's like, it's a song. And everyone's like, are you gonna match my freak? And I made a post yesterday because I was so annoyed by this because I saw so many Mormon influencers doing this, right? And here's the thing.
Are Mormon influencers a thing?
Oh, they're huge. And they're and here's my thing
the
is
universe has kept them off my For You page.
There are so many people of all religions, right, who do not conform to every ideation of that religion, I want to say, right? So, like, I have friends that are Mormon who I love, who are queer advocates, who...
Do they pay taxes, to the tithing to the church?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
Because I understand what you're going to say,
Yeah.
but if you're putting your money
there
into a church that's then funding Proposition 8
100%.
over 50% in California,
Yeah.
listen, baby, you can say that you support queer people, but you just
have to,
paid
like,
to take away our rights.
100%.
So I'm going to need you to walk away.
And you have, like, you got to talk, you can't be I always say, you can't be an ally, sister, girlfriend if your boyfriend is a homophobe.
What's her name from Salt Lake City? Who
Heather.
says it's like, no. The one that's still Mormon.
Oh, shit. Everyone
When she says
that
it's
I'm
like
her.
modern Mormon, I'm like, no.
If your church is still, you can be that. You can find a church that maybe is separated then from the entirety of the church, right? But at its core, it's still funding stuff for it.
Now, if you want to self-identify as Mormon, but, say that the aspects that you don't agree with, fine, but you better not be putting a dime towards that religion because they're taking that money and they're trying to take our rights away.
So I saw these Mormon influencers doing the Match My Freak trend, Match My Freak. And it was like the early 20-something-year-olds, and I got so pissed off because I'm like, okay, hold on. What's matching your freak, babes? Like holding hands with the lights on? Like, because, and everyone's like, no. People who are conservative and religious, they get freaky. Babes, this is my issue with that. Have you seen the TikTok interviews of them interviewing college students at Mormon universities? And they're like, would you rather take a sip of coffee or drown a dozen kittens? And they're like, drown the kittens, because they subscribe to the rules that much. So you're telling me that the rules that they're willing to break is the no sex before marriage one, which is a huge one, but not taking a sip of coffee to save an animal. Mm-hmm. I know it's hypothetical.
Well, they do that weird thing. What's it called? Where
soaking.
Yeah.
I don't. It grosses me out to even.
Molly and Grant taught me what that was, and I was like, wait,
mortified.
Why do other people have to push the bed?
Because then it's an obnoxious loophole to...
If you don't know what soaking is, I beg you to look into it and then think, what religion, what prophet would say that makes sense?
The same one that said black people were sinners and that's why their skin was that color.
Right.
I mean, the entirety of it is things evolve, blah, 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 but, problematic, right?
Honestly, it makes me so uncomfortable, even working with people who are subscribed to something that's so anti-gay is terrifying to me.
I think it's one of those things that's like you said, if there are people out there who I know, like I said, they're Mormon, that are Muslim, that are Christian,
you better go back
that
and
ask
them where their money's going.
I should. But there's people of all different religions that weave certain aspects of it. They make it work in a way that is actually allyship and not just well, I can only do half or whatever. Yeah. And I think that's great. And I appreciate those people so much. Actually, I think all people in my life who are religious or political or whatever subscribe to that. Thank God. But yeah, it's hard. It's a strange thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to like be discriminatory or anything. I'm saying like if it's a belief system, like by all means, you are
Right.
entitled to your belief system. But if you are actively doing something that is actively going to infringe on my rights,
Yeah.
your beliefs aren't going to infringe on my rights. But funding something
100%.
that's going to fund something that takes away a basic
That
right
does.
that we fought for, I have a problem with.
This is I've always said this with it. I like consistency. So if I'd rather someone be like, call me a Hispanic slur to my face than to be nice to me, but say that behind closed doors, right? Same with like, I'd rather you be homophobic to me than talk bad about me behind my back. I have a difficult time. Not even difficult time. Like when people are like, this politician thinks this way. Okay, they've told you who they were, and at least they're consistent, right? And I mean, like, if you are conservatively religious to a T and you follow everything verbatim by the book, and you hate everyone that you're supposed to hate, or love everyone you're supposed to love, you've always showed me who you were. I can't be surprised. But when you're sitting there to my face, like, I love you. I love queer people, support, allyship. I have rainbow flag. And then turn around and vote in a different interest or attend a church that actively has like homophobic serums. Like,
and I mean, people will be like, oh, Trump's not anti-gay.
Babes,
and,
he is.
And maybe this is like not a conversation to have, but I'm just going to tell you right now, Roe versus Wade got overturned because Donald Trump was president.
Yes.
So I want everyone to know that had Hillary won that election,
right,
Roe versus Wade would still be a thing.
And if you
so whether he believes in abortion or not, whether he believes people can be gay or their rights or whatever, it doesn't matter because he's acting in the interest of the party who elected him.
100%.
So when he gets elected, God forbid,
right,
and more of our rights get taken away,
right,
that's fine. If you want to sit at the Thanksgiving table with me, I'll be respectful to you. But in my mind, I know that you were part of that.
Yeah. And this is a huge thing that goes with this, right? And I will always say this, is that you don't get to say you're an ally, that you're a queer ally, that you're supportive, if that ends with trans rights. If you're like, oh, I just don't get the trans thing, then you're not an ally, babe, because you don't get to separate us. In my strongest opinion, you do not get to separate a trans person from the LGBTQ plus community. Like, it doesn't work that way. So if you're going to sit there and be like, well, no, I do. This is where I draw the line. Or I know so many pick-me queer people who are like, I don't get it either. Or like, but you know what? I'm gay, but like not RuPaul gay. Or I'm gay, but not like this. And I'm like, you know what, honey, then fuck off. Like you can do like whatever you want. Like the hate, it's like, do you know how much it makes me want to like scream that I am supportive of their transness, not them as a human, because I think they're a shit human, but of Caitlyn Jenner. I will never dead name Caitlyn. I will always call her by her pronouns. I will always sit there and acknowledge and support that she's a trans woman. She's a shit human, though, which is also a good way of saying you can be a queer person and we will support that. But it doesn't mean that you can also be a shit human too. And she is. And she is. And she's one of those pick-me people that's like, if I have these conservative values and I say, well, I'm this way, but like I don't agree with this and this. Like if your goal in life is for the conservative homophobe people to be the exception to their rule, have fun with that, babes. I'm not doing it. They're going to turn against you. You're not going to change their mind.
It's illogical. It's just illogical.
It is.
So I know I'm of the unpopular opinion that like, you can still like love your gay family member and vote for Trump, but
you can't, babes.
Listen, now you guys know how I feel.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And
Daddy?
No
watch
MAGA hats here. I swear. I'm going to go to that polling site and just watch. Let's end on a fun or funny optimistic note. Who is your favorite gay celebrity at this moment?
I can't even, no, it can't be gay. I have to say Cher 1000%.
Oh, honey, like, she's gay.
Cher times a million.
Yeah.
My mom's obsessed with Cher too, so that actually helped me.
Here's the thing, Cher is like honorary.
Iconic.
She's like, she is gay. Like
Right.
she's not, but she's
She's
is.
the word
you know?
gay.
Yeah. Oh, when we think of gay, it's like her and Ellen John, right?
Yeah.
They birthed gay.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
They
sure.
are gay.
110%.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is very like obnoxious and very like mask for mask, like straight, you're gay white dude or whatever. I'm Puerto Rican, but I'm obsessed with Jonathan Bailey.
I knew you were gonna say that.
I don't know what it is. I think it's his big ears. He has such cute big ears. He's adorable, and I am in love with him. And it's okay.
I mean, I would love to be here for this Sophia Bush like thing, but I just can't get into it.
Is that
Ashlyn Harris and Sophia Bush. You know, One Tree Hill, Sophia Bush. Yeah. Ashlyn's ex-wife went to Penn State, so I can't get behind her. But Colleen loves Sophia Bush, so Colleen's into that right now.
I would let Jonathan Bailey punch me in the face, and I would thank him afterwards. Right?
Wow.
Like I love him. He doesn't know who I am, clearly. But like I'm only watching Bridgerton right now because I found out he was in it. Even though I will say the first season they made him wear mutton chops, and it makes me want to scream. That is not gay rights. Mutton chops will not be to burn that beautiful face. But Jonathan Bailey, if you are watching this podcast, that I know you're not, hi. I am married, but I can change for you. You know, my husband's is Orville Peck and mine is Jonathan Bailey. So call me up, beat me if you want to reach me.
Mine's Fred Savage. So Fred, if you're out there.
Freddie, listen, Freddie, my love. This was fun. It was emotions. It was a bunch.
Yeah.
I really thought we were gonna have more kiki fun haha things, but I think that it's also probably more important that we talk about like.
We were like, Anne-Marie does not like to get emotional,
I know.
so that was not ideal.
I know. I'm like not. I love supporting people through emotions. I was more comfortable with you being emotional than I was being emotional, which is strange for someone with autism. But like, I was like, oh, I don't know what's happening right now. But with you, I'm like, I know she's upset, and I can identify that.
Tel's over here having like an autism moment. He's like, I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
Like, that's like, I swear it's like why I became a therapist. So I'm like, I can help other people with emotions, just not myself. Yeah, but I think I agree with what you said earlier. If one person sees it or one parent sees it, then it was worth it was worth this entire podcast, not even just this episode was worth it. You know.
Too. Yeah.
All right. Well, happy Pride Month.
Yes.
We will see you next week for our episode. Send us your coming out stories and talk to us about your processes or processes. And
or if you want to come out today after watching this, let us know.
Let it happen, babes.
Go call your daughter or your son. And
or
watch
your
that
trans
video
child and say we love you. Yeah. We'll see you next week, though.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye.